Hello everyone, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending upon when you are watching this video lecture. Today let's discuss about one of the important topics in cost and management accounting, that is process costing or operation costing. Though there are subtle differences, basically we can call this process costing. And in this chapter, particularly we have to understand what is the meaning of process costing and or operation costing, and how to treat the losses and gains, whether normal loss or normal gain or abnormal loss or abnormal gain in the cost accounts. Computation of equivalent units is very important aspect in this chapter, and also most importantly valuation of work in progress in case of process oriented industries, and finding out and treating the inter-process profits are some of the aspects that we should learn in this chapter, that is process costing. Let us start with basically understanding of what kind of industries will or can use this process costing, and what kind of situation warrants such a method of costing to be used. And definitely this is a method of costing, just like contract costing or operating costing or service costing. This is also another method of costing which is used in particular industries where the material has to pass through two or more processes. Majorly that is the place where process costing can be more helpful. So such industries where the materials will have to be passing through multiple processes is where process costing can be more useful. And while passing through various processes, ultimately the material will be converted into finished goods. So simply speaking, when we look at it as a method of costing, this is a method where costs are charged to the processes or operations and then finally averaged over the units that are produced. Of course, ultimately the objective is same, that is cost ascertainment. But cost ascertainment here is not happening in one shot like unit costing. It is happening process wise. For each process we have to find out what was the cost of that process and what is the output of that process and what is the cost per unit that process has actually resulted in. So basically what is required here in this process costing is more or less like accounting. We will have process accounts. So there will be an account opened for each process, and all the expenditure related to a process is charged to that process account. And obviously such kind of method can be useful for manufacturing industries, particularly any type of manufacturing industry where the materials will have to pass through more than one process till it becomes the finished goods. So this can be understood with the help of this diagram, where raw material is first introduced and then it is going to process 1. From there it goes to process 2, 3, 4, 5, 42, whatever. After so many processes, ultimately it gets converted into finished goods. But our point is, we need to open a process account for each process. So in a nutshell, if we want to understand what is the difference between other methods of costing like unit costing, where we prepare a cost sheet and directly find out what is the total cost divided by number of units, we know the unit cost, then why do we need this? This is required for those type of industries where multiple processes are there, and the objective here is to find out the cost of not the final product. Final product cost will anyway be found out, but to also find out the cost of each process. Why is it required? Anyway, ultimately raw materials will be converted to finished goods. We will know the total cost. We can divide by number of units and get cost per unit. If we do so, we will never be able to understand what is happening in each process. So costing is not just about knowing the overall things. Overall things, if we argue that way, can be known from financial accounts also. We don't even need cost accounts. But the cost accounting and costing purpose itself is to enter into the minute details and understand how much it is costing for each process, not for the entire product only. Of course, after the completion of all processes, once the finished goods are produced, anyway we know the total cost. Anyway, divided by total number of units, we will get the cost per unit. But the question here is how that cost per unit has been derived. It is not happening in one shot. It is happening stepwise. And what is the cost of each step in the manufacturing process is what we have to identify by preparing process accounts. And that is basically the essence of process costing. What are the general features of process costing, as we already have discussed? First of all, the total factory or the overall process or overall manufacturing activity is divided into number of processes. You can call them cost centers, you call them departments or divisions, that's okay. But ultimately, each of them is denoting one process. And manufacturing is carried out either continuously or selectively or simultaneously. That depends upon the production plan that we don't have to worry about. But one point for sure is manufacturing will happen in process 1 also, process 2, 3 also simultaneously. But is it happening on the same material? No. Process 2 is processing that thing that has already completed in process 1 to whatever extent it could be completed. So work may be happening in all the processes simultaneously in physical manner, but the work is not happening on the same materials, that is for sure. But irrespective of that, whatever one process actually carries out any activity, the output of that process becomes the input of another process. This is the most important feature of process costing or processes, where the output of one process will be treated as input of another process. And usually the end product is of like units, not distinguishable from one another. That is a common thing for most of the manufacturing. That cannot be a customized product. It is a common product that comes out as end product. So the end product is usually of homogeneous units, not distinguishable from one another. And another important point here is also, only for practical purposes, not for us, is the difficulty in tracing the identity of a particular lot of output to any particular lot of input. That will be very difficult and almost impossible. You take any industry, say sugar industry, one sugar bag if you take, which is output, from which truck of sugar cane this sugar bag is manufactured, can we identify that? It is just impossible. You take steel industry, finally steel is produced, or finally steel is shaped into certain things like furniture. Okay, one iron safe has been manufactured. Steel input was in the form of bars. Output, what we have manufactured is furniture. Can we identify which steel is used in this furniture? Not possible, because steel was melted, everything is just mixed up. So just impossible to trace input with output, but the input keeps on going from one process to another process, so that ultimately it turns out to become the output, that is finished goods. That is the basic nature of manufacturing industries. Many manufacturing industries will be better off if they use process costing. And after this, there is one more chapter also, which is an extension of this, because usually the production of this product might generate joint products or byproducts also. How to treat those joint products, byproducts will be the subject matter of next chapter, but that is also one of the characteristic features of manufacturing industries which extensively use process costing as their method of costing. And particularly, there is not going to be any rocket science or freshly developed something. Any cost, whichever method we use, ultimately will have the same things. There will be material cost, there will be labor cost, there will be direct expenses, there will be overheads expenses, definitely. But which overheads we are talking here? Production overheads we are talking. Office overheads and all is different. That has nothing to do with manufacturing process. That comes later. When we are talking about process, we are talking the core manufacturing process. So naturally the production overheads will also have to be charged to each of the processes according to any appropriate basis. We don't need to separately worry about materials, labor and all. Why? Because that has to be given in the question. Naturally, whatever the materials are used in which process, they will be debited to that process account because that is a cost. That's it. Labor cost, of course, it will be also debited with labor cost. Each process will be debited with the people who are working for that process and how much money has been paid to them. So there is no special requirement of learning something new when it comes to material, labor or even direct expenses. They will be debited, that's all. There is nothing special. So as far as these three things are concerned, those are anyway identifiable. That is why we are calling them direct. They are identifiable with each process also. In any case, if they are not identifiable, for example, labor working in two processes simultaneously, then maybe there can be some apportionment over the different process depending upon such situation. But materials definitely can be identified with each process if there are any materials introduced at a later level. But normally materials are introduced in the first level. Each process will not have same fresh raw materials. For example, sugarcane is introduced in process 1. Let us say that is extracting sugarcane juice from the sugarcane. Again, process 3, process 4, process 2 also will not have sugarcane. Already sugarcane's job is over. Maybe they will mix some other chemicals, some other things, some other type of products or substances, so that ultimately they make sugar. So the basic material will be introduced in the first process only, usually. After that there may be some more material required, but depends upon once again the production process. Not necessarily, because once it is manufacturing, we are not here to understand how sugar is manufactured or how cement is manufactured or how paper is manufactured. That is not our requirement. But in general, for most of them, the material will be introduced in the beginning of the process is a common point. Not necessarily that always it will happen like that. There may be certain things where a high valued material can be introduced later. Last process it may be introduced. That depends upon the type of product and what is the manufacturing technology they are using. We don't have to worry about them. For us, what is important is to understand materials are flowing from one process to another process, and materials inputted into process 1 will have some work done on them. Some output will come out of that, whatever it may be. That will also do some work. Then some output will come out of process 2. Output is all work in progress only. None of that is finished goods. Then that output of process 2 will go to process 3, like that process 4, and how many processes it will have, those many processes it will go through. And final process, whatever it is, that is where the finished goods will emerge. That is the only point we have to focus and identify. But yes, other than materials, labor and direct expenses which are possibly identifiable with each process, overheads sometimes might have a bit of complication or practical difficulty. What would be that? Maybe the overheads are incurred not for only one process. They are incurred for all the processes. Let us say factory is there. Factory rent is paid for the entire factory. And within the factory only 4 or 5 processes are running. How can we say that rent is paid for only process 1? We cannot say that. Same way the power bill, same way the lighting bills, gas and water bills, etc. These are all production overheads. They are not generally incurred directly in relation to a process. They are generally incurred for all the processes put together as a common expenses. So naturally, they cannot be allocated to a process. So what should we do? Depending upon the information that is given in the question, we have to apportion those common production overheads to different processes by using some suitable basis. So what is the suitable basis? Either that has to be given in the question, or sufficient data has to be given in the question which we can understand as a suitable basis. Generally, that will be given in the question. What is the suitable basis to apportion the overheads among different processes? Whatever that apportionment has resulted in, that amount will be debited to the process on a predetermined basis. That is the only difference of direct expenses like direct material, direct labor and direct expenses and production overheads. Overheads are indirect expenses. So naturally they will not be possible to be identified with one process. Only option left out will be to apportion them on some appropriate basis. That is the basic way of understanding how the process accounts work and how the manufacturing industries work and use the method of costing called as process costing. Now let us just quickly go through some of the small examples only to introduce process costing. These are not going to be the main examination questions, definitely not. But understanding of process costing definitely can be happening using these illustrations. Let us take illustration number 1. What it is asking, from the following data, prepare process accounts indicating the cost of each process and the total cost also is asked. And the total units that pass through each process was 240 units for the period. And nothing is mentioned about losses and all. So 240 units will pass through all processes. Not necessarily always there will be losses. If it is there in the question, there is loss. If there is no loss, no loss. So 240 units are going to be introduced in process 1. Same 240 will go to process 2 also. Same 240 will go to process 3 also. But of course not in same shape. They will get added with some work done. So what are the 3 processes which are here? Just for namesake, process 1, process 2 and process 3. And the data related to the materials, labor and other expenses of each process has already been given. All that we need to do is, because all of them are costs, we have to just debit them to the respective process accounts. That is okay. But in addition to this, another information is given that is related to the indirect expenses, which is nothing but overheads. Overheads are 85,000. They have to be apportioned on the basis of wages. That is given also. So we have to use wages as a basis for apportionment of 85,000. So naturally, what is the basis here? This is going to be the basis. In other words, 8 is to 20 is to 6. That means 4 is to 10 is to 3. So that is the basis. We have to apportion 85,000 to all the processes. This can be done as a working note first. So just apportion the 85,000 to process 1, 2 and 3. Whatever is given in the question, use that only. 1, 2, 3, A, B, C, whatever the way it is given. It is given in Roman numbers, no problem. Take it in Roman numbers. 1, 2, 3. 3 processes are there. So 85,000 has to be apportioned in the ratio of 4 is to 10 is to 3. So how much will that be? Process 1 will get 20,000. Process 2 will get 50,000. This is a simple apportionment. Then process 3 will get 15,000. Naturally, the total will be 85,000. That is how 85,000 will be apportioned to process 1, 2 and 3 on the basis of wages. That is given. And no stocks, opening stock or closing stocks are not there. Okay, fine. Now, all that we are asked to do is prepare process accounts. I would suggest you actually open your books and prepare them, because there is nothing to separately tell about what is debit, what is credit, how to show debit and credit at this level. You must be already knowing it. The only point is to identify what are the things that have to be debited. So first what you should do is now open process 1 account. Process 1 account, if you open, there will be debit side, credit side as usual. Particulars amount can be there. Per unit is given here. It's not required. It is not asked. If it is asked, we will do. Otherwise, no problem. Not required. Just say particulars amount. in process 1 account. All that you need to do great job is just like accounting, copy paste. Materials 1,50,000, 2 materials 1,50,000, labor 80,000, so 2 labor 80,000 rupees, that is. Other expenses 26,000, process 1 we are talking, so 2 other expenses 26,000. Indirect expenses we calculated already, that is the share of process 1 in that is 20,000. Charge that also as 20,000 after calculating the apportionmental basis. So these are all the costs which are incurred in process 1, and all the costs put together will be transferred to process 2. How much will be that? 2,76,000. So all of them will be transferred to process 2 account by saying by process 2 account. Then open process 2 account. Then open process 2 account, and first of all debit this to process 1 account, 2,76,000, because that is coming from process 1 account. It is cumulative. So from process 1, how much was coming? Same, whatever we calculated already, that is 2,76,000. That is already there. Over and above it, there are some other costs incurred in process 2. What are those? Once again, material 50, labor 2 lakhs, and other expenses 72. So 50, 2 lakhs, 72. Debit them, same, copy paste. 2 material, 2 labor, 2 other expenses. And apportionment of indirect expenses to process 2 we already did. That came to around 50,000. Debit that also to process 2. Once you do that, the total cost now becomes 6,48,000. That will be transferred to process 3. So by process 3 account, 6,48,000. Then that will become input for process 3. Now 6,48,000 will be debited to process 3 by saying that to process 2 account. Once again, same story. Material, labor, other expenses and indirect expenses related to process 3 will have to be debited. 20,000, 60,000, 25,000 and 15,000. Same things which are given in the question. 20,000, 60,000, 25,000 and 15,000 are debited to process 3 over and above that has been received from process 2. Now what is the total after adding that also? 7,68,000. Totaling an account, balancing an account, nobody needs to tell you at this level. But the point is, this all looks like what is there in this. But let me tell you, you have to open the accounts and write them. Chartered accountancy is not just about knowing things. It is about patience also. So you have to really open the accounts on the paper. Patiently you have to copy paste. You have to do that. That is the nature of the chapter. You have to do that. Me doing it is not going to tell anything. It is not going to help, at least for these things. So your job is to open the process accounts and one by one debit all the costs, material, labor, other expenses and indirect expenses. Take it to next process. Again debit material, labor, other expenses, indirect expenses. Take it to next process. And again in the third process also do the same thing, so that you know the total cost by the end of process 3. From process 3 where it will go? It has to go to finished stock. So it will be transferred to finished stock account. That's it. That is the basic understanding of process accounts, how they will be. So the core flow of process accounts will be same. Of course, some other additional items will be added. We'll have stocks, we'll have work in progress, we'll have losses, normal, abnormal. Those all things will be the additional points over and above this. But the core of process costing is this. The process account will be debited with all the expenses related to that process, and whatever the total of the cost related to that process is there, that will be transferred to the next process, and that becomes the input for next process. Again other expenses will be added related to that process, then transferred to next process. That goes to next process. Finally that will be transferred to finished goods. In this example there are 3 processes. Maybe in some examples there are 2, sometimes 4, like that. In reality there may be many of them also, but maximum 3 generally is what is asked in exams. But irrespective of that, the way we have to prepare process accounts is very simple and straightforward. This is how we have to do. But once again I'm telling you, you have to do it. Don't watch it. You have to do it. Then only will become used to. preparing process accounts in a comfortable way. Now, okay, fine, process to process costs are transferred, that's all fine. But what if within this manufacturing activity, there are some losses that are going to arise, and we know losses can be normal losses also, sometimes abnormal losses also. How to treat them within the process accounts is definitely one of the very important aspects. Again, examination questions can be very well expected. In any question, we can expect a bit of normal loss or abnormal loss. As part of it, both also can be expected within the same process. Why is that? How is that? Let us understand that. Loss we don't have to define specifically. Loss is something that arises in the course of actually doing some operations, and whatever is the difference between the input quantity of the material and its output naturally is loss. You have inputted 10,000 units, but output has come out only as 9,800 units. That means 200 units is lost in production. That is loss. But the question is, what kind of loss that is? Is it normal loss or abnormal loss? How do we know, sir? We don't know. It will be given in the question. Definitely normal loss has to be given if it has to be identified as normal loss. And normal loss, as we know already, simply is absorbed by good units produced under the process. So what happens effectively is, because of normal loss, the cost will not change. The cost is incurred for all units, including the normal lost units. But number of units that will go to the next process will be less with the same cost, which means what? Cost per unit is inflated. Same way that we deal with normal loss in the case of materials, because logic is same. We are not talking about anything different here. Simply the normal loss is something that is unavoidable, that is the nature of the material or process, and that will be absorbed by the good units produced under that process. What if there is any amount that is realized by sale of the normal process loss units? If there is any such scrap sale or normal loss sale, that should be credited to the process account. So why credit? Naturally, when it is a revenue, it has to be credited to the process account, because costs are debited, benefits are credited. Why can't we credit directly to a P&L account and all? No. Because we are considering the normal loss when we calculate the number of units of output, but we are not considering the real cost of those normal lost units. The cost was incurred for entire units, including the normally lost units, divided by, because of normal loss, the denominator is less. So the cost per unit is inflated. When there is some kind of scrap value or some kind of realization of sale happens of the normal loss units, that will reduce the cost rather than increasing revenues or sales. That would not be appropriate. Better to reduce the cost. How to reduce the cost? Naturally by crediting process account. Now let us understand some examples once again where different scenarios are there. Example 1. Normal loss is there, but there is no realizable value. Look at the situation here. A product processed through process 1 and process 2. Only 2 processes are there. Materials are issued to process 1. Amount is 40,000 rupees. Wages are 30,000 rupees. Manufacturing overheads are already given as 27,000 rupees. Everything is given. You just have to copy paste them. But the point is, normal loss anticipated as 5% of input. That is what we don't know. That has to be given. That's a technical estimate. It will be given in the question. All the data will be given in the question. Our job is to only account for it. Then 4750 outputs, units of output were produced and transferred out from process 1 naturally to process 2, and there were no opening stocks. The input raw materials issued to process 1 were 5000 units, and the scrap has no realizable value. This is the situation. All the data given. Once again, this is only for practice and understanding, not examination questions. But definitely these concepts are going to be there in the questions, but not individually. We learn them progressively, one by one, but in the exam questions, all of them will be tested in one shot. Here, what is the situation in this particular case? Normal loss is there, 5%, but it has no realizable value. First of all, let us see whether normal loss amount is matching. Input in the process was 5,000 units. That was clear, given already. When 5,000 units are inputted and 5% is the normal loss, normally speaking, that is what is the norm, that is what is standard, that is 5% of input. 5% of 5,000 should be 250 units. In this process costing, most important thing is we have to always keep in mind, are we talking about units or rupees? For that matter, that is very important in entire costing. Here also the same classification has to be done very carefully. Any number is not an amount. 5,000 watt units, 250 watt units. So how many units are supposed to come out? 4,750 units are supposed to be coming out, and exactly 4,750 units only have come out. So there is no abnormal loss, no abnormal gain. Everything is normal loss only. How to treat that? How to prepare process 1 account, and also the normal loss and units to be transferred to process 2 account. Normal loss is not separate. It will be absorbed by good units only. Since there is no realizable value, it will not have anything to be separately accounted for. But as usual, you have to open the process 1 account and debit the expenses. Expenses are what? 40,000 rupees materials, 30,000 wages, 27,000 overheads. So open that. 40,000 materials, 20,000 wage, 30,000 wages, 27,000 overheads. Now also write units here. Have one more column in addition to amount. Why? Because we will understand because whenever there is loss, we need to also account for units. How many number of units are going to the final process? Suddenly it cannot come, because the input of 5,000 now in process 1 came out as 4,750 only. Until and unless we know this number of units, we cannot find out cost per unit. So units also is an important column. Definitely we have to write in process costing related questions. So you have units and amount also, both columns are there. Materials units are 5,000 units inputted, amount 40,000, we know that. Wages, overheads, expenses, that is 30,000 and 27,000. Total of all of that is 97,000. That is there as a total cost, no doubt. However, but the problem here is there was a 250 units of normal loss. So that will be reduced from 5,000. So how many units can go to process 2? Only 4,750 units can go to process 2. 5,000 units cannot go. 250 units are lost. But that was normal loss. So what is the treatment of normal loss? There is no treatment required here. Why? Because there is no scrap value also. There is no scrap value, so here it is 0. If there was scrap value, there would be some amount here. Since there is no scrap value, 0 is the amount. Only in the units column, this normal loss will have to be written. Then naturally the remaining units 4750 will be only there, but the cost 97,000 is incurred for all the units. That will be absorbed by 4750 units only. So cost per unit, if at all we want to find out here, that will be 97,000, which is the cost of all material, labor and overheads, divided by good units. Here are 4750. So the cost per unit that can be transferred to next process, process 2, can be calculated as 97,000 divided by 4750. Around 20.42 it will come out. So the per unit cost is 97,000 divided by 4750, 20.42. That is for understanding purposes. Just to understand that we have inflated the cost per unit. Why? Cost was incurred for 5,000 units, but we are only accounting it for 4750 units. 97,000 divided by 5,000, the cost originally should have been 19.4 only. If this loss was not there, cost per unit should have been 19.4. But because of this normal loss, what happened? That has been inflated to 20.42 from 19.4. That's what the normal loss will do. As we already know, nothing new in this. But that's what is accounted for in the process account by taking only units column without writing any amount in the amount column, since there is no scrap value. If there was a scrap value, if there was a realizable value, that would have been written in the amount column of normal loss, right? That is when there is no realizable value. Now let us take another example where there is realizable value. Normal loss is there and there is a realizable value also. All other data is same actually, so we don't need to again and again copy paste them. Just while you do it on paper, you do that separately any number of times. But now only point here that is changed here is the scrap has a realizable value of 2 rupees per unit. That is a change. Other than that, everything else is same. So you have inputted same 5000 number of materials, units of materials, same 5000, and costs are all same, 40, 30 and 27. Normal loss here, units 250 is also same, but it had a scrap value of 2 rupees per unit. So 250 into 2, 500 normal loss is credited to the process account. That will reduce the cost, simply speaking. See, the normally cost incurred was 97,000. Reduce the cost by 500. So cost incurred is only 96,500. That's what the treatment of scrap value of normal loss should be. It should be credited to the process account amount column. If there was no realizable value, process account units column only will be created by normal loss. Units column is not an account, if you can observe automatically. It is only for understanding purposes, but it is important in this chapter. Why? Because the ultimate objective of any chapter, ultimately for cost ascertainment, is to find out unit cost. Without knowing number of units, how can we do that? That is why always you have to make sure you also write units column while preparing the process accounts. So that is the scrap value treatment, we can say, of normal loss. Then what is the amount of cost that is transferred to the next process? In this case is 96,500. How many units are transferred? 4750. Now the cost per unit definitely is different than earlier. Now it is around 20.32. Just for understanding once again, 20.32 is the cost per unit. Earlier it was how much? When it was there was no scrap value, it was 20.42. Because of scrap value, the cost has reduced and cost per unit also has reduced. So from 20.42, it has reduced to 20.32 per unit. That is another scenario of normal loss. Now coming to the abnormal loss. Abnormal loss can also be there in the process. What is abnormal loss? Nothing special. The loss which is in excess of the normal loss or in excess of the predetermined loss is abnormal loss. That could happen because of any reasons. It may be due to the carelessness of workers, bad design of the plant, whatever it is. But these are not possible to be planned in advance. There is no possibility to predict them. But yes, they can be kept under control by taking suitable measures. But abnormal losses do occur while manufacturing the commodities and goods. How this abnormal loss has to be treated? This abnormal loss has to be treated just like the calculated. The abnormal loss has to be calculated just like we calculate the cost per each good unit. So whatever the cost of an abnormal process loss unit is, that is equal to the cost of a good unit. So abnormal process loss unit cost and cost of good unit both are same. But what happens to this abnormal loss? It has to be credited to the process account from which it arises. Why it has to be credited here? Because from here it will be debited later to the costing profit and loss account. Ultimately it will go to costing profit and loss account or profit and loss account. Normally in costing we call it costing profit and loss account, and here it will be credited to the process account. But don't be under wrong impression that normal loss scrap value is credited also, abnormal loss is also credited, both are same. No, normal loss scrap value is credited because we want to reduce the overall cost of the good units. since there was a benefit coming out of the scrap units. Abnormal loss is credited because, once again, the cost of good units to be transferred to the next process should be lesser than what it has been incurred, and the real abnormal loss, whatever has been credited here, will be automatically debited to the costing P&L account. So for that double entry, which will happen later, first the process account is credited. Definitely this is not accounted for in the process cost. No, it will be reduced from the process cost. That is why it is credited. That is abnormal loss. But that does not mean it is never accounted for at all. It is accounted for, but not here. We are postponing it. We are taking it out of process cost or process account later, which will be debited to costing profit and loss account. Of course, that also depends upon if there is any scrap value for them or not. Now let us understand another situation or example where abnormal loss is there with some realizable value also. Let us look at this. Again, amounts are all same. You have to open the process 1 account. Things are all same. Same material, same wages, same manufacturing overheads. These are all same. Normal loss of 5% was anticipated on 5,000 units of input, which means, as we know already, 4,750 units should have been manufactured. But how many units are actually coming out of process 1? Only 4,550 units are coming out. So ideally, when 4,750 units are supposed to be manufactured in process 1, but only 4,550 are really coming out of process 1, that means definitely there is an abnormal loss of 200 units. That is evident from the question. So abnormal loss is 200 units. And scrap has a realizable value of 2 rupees per unit, that is given same, and there were no opening stocks and closing stocks. So how to prepare process 1 account in this case? Everything else is same except abnormal loss. Starting with material, 5,000 units of input, number of units, material, wages, overheads, costs are same, nothing different. Normal loss 250 units because scrap value is 2 rupees per unit, that is 500 rupees. Normal loss will be there anyway, with a gain of 500 rupees, which reduces the overall cost of process 1 account. Now comes this remaining. Before going with these amounts, while writing this account, you have to write the units. First equate the units. 5,000 units are inputted, and what happened finally with these 5,000 units? 250 became normal loss, 200 became abnormal loss. Only 4,550 went to process 2. First write down the units. Then before calculating this abnormal loss or process 2 account to be transferred, how much cost, you need to calculate this. It cannot be done afterwards. You have to calculate before calculating abnormal loss. Why? Because the cost per unit of abnormal loss also and cost per unit of good units also has to be same. So what will be that? The formula, if you want to remember, that is already what is there. That is the what? Total cost minus the realizable value of the normal loss divided by the total input units minus normal loss units into abnormal loss units. That is the value of abnormal loss. Simply speaking, whatever the total cost incurred here, total cost incurred already we know, debit said 97,000. That we know, 97,000. Okay, fine. 97,000 minus of what is the scrap value of normal loss? That we know already, that is 500. So cost incurred effectively is only 96,500, right? 96,500 is the cost incurred on how many units? On how many units? 4,750 units. Why? We have to take only units inputted minus normal loss units. On 4,750, 96,500 was incurred. So how much will be the per unit cost? That already, as we calculated earlier, that comes to around 20.32. That's what we already calculated, but then there was no abnormal loss. Now there is abnormal loss, around 20.32 per unit. That is the abnormal loss also. That is the cost of good unit also per unit. So just multiply this with 200, you will get abnormal loss. Multiply this with 4550, you get the cost of good units which are transferred to next process. You can find that also. Do this 20.32 into approximately 200, that comes to 4063 or 4064. That's what is abnormal loss amount. Then same way 4550 into 20.32, that will be 92,437. Total should be matching, that is equal to 97,000. So 4063 is the abnormal loss, 92,437 is the total cost of good units which are transferred to the next process, that is process 2. So the abnormal loss amount is 4063. But is it really the abnormal loss? This 200 units of abnormal loss, as far as the cost of production is concerned, yes, 4063 is the value of abnormal loss. But when we actually take it later, for example, when we take it to the P&L account, will we take 4063 to the P&L account? No. That also we can understand. Why? Because whether it is normal or abnormal, there was a realizable value of 2 rupees per unit it was given. So really how much will be the abnormal loss that will be transferred to P&L account later? Will be 4063, which is there already, minus of 200 into 2, 400. So 4063 minus 400, that comes to 3663, will be transferred to costing profit and loss account. So 3663. That will all happen outside the process account, so that is why we don't need to worry about it. But we should know it. So abnormal loss credited to the process account, and the cost of the good units transferred to the next process will have same unit cost. That is what we have to always keep in mind. That is a calculation very important related to abnormal loss, that too with a realizable value. Now another possibility also might arise, that is abnormal gain. Abnormal gain, or you can sometimes call it as abnormal yield. It's opposite of abnormal loss. Abnormal loss occurs when actual output is less than the desired output, or you can say the actual loss is more than the desired loss or normal loss. On the other side, if the actual loss is less than the normal loss, then the difference is called as abnormal gain. In other words, when the actual production exceeds the expected figures, then we call it as abnormal gain, or the difference between actual loss and expected loss, and actual production and expected production can be called as abnormal gain. It will be just opposite of abnormal loss. See, in the same example earlier, all these cases 4750 units are supposed to be produced after a normal loss of 5%. In this case, example 3, 4550 only were produced. That is why there was 200 units of abnormal loss. Now let us take another example here. Only 4850 units are produced. Other details are all same. Materials, wages, overheads, every amount is same. Normal loss is 5%, input is 5000, every details are same. Scrap has realizable value of 2 rupees, everything is same. Only thing is what? Actual output has changed. Actual output is not 4750, rather it is 4850. So 4850 when it is the actual output, that means there is an abnormal gain of 100 units. Why? Once again, because from the 5000 input, 5% was supposed to be loss. That means 4750 was supposed to be the output, but actually 4850 units are produced. So there is 100 units of abnormal gain. See, when abnormal loss is credited to the P&L account, abnormal gain has to be debited to the P&L account. That is the treatment naturally. Of course, from there, it will be transferred to the costing profit and loss account on the credit side later. It's just the opposite of abnormal loss. Abnormal loss is credited in the P&L in the process account, later debited to costing P&L account, whereas abnormal gain is debited to the process account, later it will be credited to costing profit and loss account according to the situation. Now let us look at this situation. Other things are all same. Write the units, do this one. 5000, okay, 40, 30, 27, copy paste. Abnormal gain you cannot calculate directly. But normal loss you have to first take 250 units, process 2 account, 4850 units, which is reality. 4850 is reality, which is given in the question. 250 units is standard, that is what normally it is supposed to be lost. And we know 2 rupees scrap value means normal loss rupees amount column should be 500. So far it's okay. There you have to stop. Now once again, just like abnormal loss, here also, the per unit cost of good units transferred to next process and per unit value of abnormal gain, both will be same, naturally. How will that be same? Now let us understand the same thing once again. Whatever is the total cost here so far, without abnormal gain and all, abnormal gain we don't know how much is it. How much amount to be transferred to process 2 also we don't know. You cannot print like this on the paper. These two things we don't know. We have to find them. This number 100 we know, but amounts we don't know. So what is going to be the total cost without these things? That is already known. 30 plus 40 plus 27. That is 97,000. Okay, fine. Minus 500. That is fine. That is also there. Divided by originally inputted units are 5000 minus normal loss units. Total input units minus normal loss units only has to be taken. So that is 4750. So once again, 96,500 divided by 4750 is common. Again it is coming the same. 96,500 divided by 4750 will be how much? 20.32. Once again similar. 20.32 per unit. This has to be used for two purposes. One, to find out abnormal gain, and also to find out the cost of goods to be transferred to next process. Abnormal gain how much? Multiply this with 100 units. You will get abnormal gain. That is what it is, 2032. So now we know this 2032. 2032 is now known. Earlier not known, but now known. So 2032 is known. Now same way, apply this for the cost of goods to be transferred to next process. So 20.32 you have to multiply with what? Number of units transferred to next process. Naturally 4850 in this case. Multiply that. 4850 into 20.32. It will be how much? 98,552 or approximately 32, depending upon balancing figure. So 20.32 into 4850 will be 98,552 if we calculate only like that. Because decimals we have not taken, better to take balancing figure here rather than multiplying. So it will be more or less the same. 20 rupees, 10 rupees difference is due to decimals. So that is the cost of goods which are transferred to next process. Per unit cost is same for cost of goods transferred to next process as well as abnormal loss or gain as the case may be. So now this 2032 is there as abnormal gain. What happens to this? Understand this carefully. 2032 cannot be credited to the costing profit and loss account once again. Why? Because this 100 units abnormal gain, out of this there is a scrap value of 250 already which was taken as 500 rupees. That was in normal loss account. So look at this. For example, abnormal gain account if you prepare. By process 1 account we got this 100 units and 2032, no problem. Then in the normal loss account 200 rupees has to be deducted from that. Why is that? Because 2 rupees is the scrap value. So simply speaking, just like in the case of abnormal loss, in the case of abnormal gain also, the direct amount will not go to costing P&L account. 2032 minus scrap value of this 100, that will be 200. So effectively how much will go to the costing P&L account? 1832. That's what is shown in the abnormal gain account. That is 1832. So from here it goes to the credit side of costing P&L account. So that is how the actual amount of gain amount only should be credited to the costing P&L account. Why this is happening? Because there is scrap value. If there is no scrap value, whatever the abnormal gain here is, that will go to the costing P&L account. It is all accounting. And once again, simple logic is, what costs are incurred, everybody knows. But the point is, are they charged to this process or not? Are they charged somewhere else? That is all the point that comes out to be. So here, in case of abnormal gain, that is debited to the this process account. From this debited to the process account, the other side will happen to the credit side of costing profit and loss account at the end of year in general. But after deducting the scrap value, that is what is the point to be noted here. And where from that scrap value is coming, that is from the normal loss. So that is what is mentioned once again here. Whatever it is, process account is debited with the value of abnormal gain as calculated above, but costing P&L account will be created only with the actual amount of abnormal gain after considering the actual realizable value through abnormal gain account. If any account is asked like this, you can prepare abnormal gain account. Otherwise, at least you understand the concept. From the abnormal loss or abnormal gain, scrap value has to be also reduced and the remaining amount only should be transferred to the costing P&L account. But there is a difference in abnormal loss and abnormal gain. In case of abnormal loss, the scrap value is reduced because that abnormal loss itself is sold. In case of abnormal gain, that is not real. It is only just because of a change in what we are supposed to get and what we got. So that is why the difference or the scrap value of abnormal gain has to be reduced from the normal loss. Normal loss was already there. That should be reduced from normal loss. Remaining amount shall be transferred to costing profit and loss account. That is the treatment for normal loss, and abnormal gain. There will not be normal gain. Gain itself is illogical. When you introduce 1000 kilos of something, you will not come out with 1500 kilos of the something. So not possible. Gain will not happen in manufacturing. Loss only will happen. But this abnormal gain is a fictional item. Why is it? Since we expected a certain amount of normal loss, that did not happen. It has happened little lesser. So what we are accounting for it as, okay sir, normal loss we are taking as it is, as if it has incurred. It is not actually incurred. And abnormal gain we are accounting for separately. And that abnormal gain amount, if there is any scrap value, that is also reduced from normal loss. Remaining amount is transferred to costing profit and loss account from here. That is about normal loss, and abnormal gain. Now look at one of the definite possible questions, 5 marks type question in process costing without any work in progresses and stocks, but still having some relevance to losses, that is normal and abnormal losses. Read illustration 2 carefully. A product processed through 3 processes. Output of each process is treated as the raw material of the next process to which it is transferred, and output of the third process is transferred to finished stock. Okay, fine. Whatever from process 1 is there, that goes to process 2. Whatever output from process 2 is there, that goes to process 3. From there it goes to finished goods. That is what is process costing. Every time we don't have to specially look at it. Material cost, labor cost, manufacturing overhead, all 3 are already given. Copy paste is the biggest job we are supposed to do. And how many units are inputted first, that is important. Units also become important in process costing. 10,000 units have been issued to the process 1. And after the processing, output of each process is like that. Normal loss of 2% is supposed to happen in process 1. 10,000 units are introduced, so you can just directly calculate how much normal loss should have been ideally. Ideally, it should have been only 200 units, which means ideally how much should have been the output? 9,800 units, right? But real output is 9,750 only. So what is abnormal loss? 50 units. That is for first process. Then how many units are inputted in the second process? Don't send 10,000. 10,000 is gone. Only 9,750 will come from process 1 to process 2. That is important point to note. This is a cumulative thing. From process 1, how many units will go to process 2? Only 9,750, because that was the output of process 1. That becomes input of process 2. On that, 5% is supposed to be normal loss. That means 487.5. Let us just for convenience purposes call it as 488 units of normal loss. 488 units of normal loss could be there. So 9750 minus 488 supposed to be 9262, but actually they made 9400. That means there is an abnormal gain. This is abnormal loss, and here it is abnormal gain of how much? 138 units. All these things you have to calculate. 138 units of abnormal gain is there in process 2. Then how many units are inputted in process 3? 9,400 units of output from process 2 comes to process 3 as input. 9,400 units. These all quantities only we are talking so far. Amounts will come automatically. When 9,400 units are inputted, 10% is the normal loss. Ideally, they should have produced 8,460. So 10% of 9,400 is normal loss will be how much here? Number of units 940. That means ideally they should have produced 8460, but they produced only 8,000 units. That means once again there is a further abnormal loss of 460 units. So like this, from one process to another process, normal and abnormal losses or gains will come. Normal loss is always there. Whatever is given in this, that has to be just taken as a percentage of input, that is. And another point is no stock of materials or work in progress was left at the end. Calculate the cost of finished articles. And he has not mentioned any scrap value. So normal loss will only impact the unit column. It will not have an impact on amount column. But let us see how the process accounts will look like. Open the process account first of all. Process 1 account. Process 1 account starts with, of course, every account unit amount, units amount, particulars, unit amount, particulars, units also, amount also. Number of units introduced is 10,000 units in process 1, that was given, and materials cost of that was 40,000 rupees. Same way, labor cost of 6,000 rupees and overheads of 10,000 rupees are also incurred. So those are all debited to process 1 account straight away. Then normal loss in the first case is 200 units. Already we calculated that. That will be credited to the process account without any amount in total. Why? Because there is no scrap value that is given. Now if you tally the total number of units, because how many units are going to the next process? Only 9750, which is the completed units of process 1. As we already calculated, what will be the abnormal loss in process 1? That is 50 units. 50 units is the abnormal loss of process 1. Once you have already everything, all that you need to calculate is per unit cost of abnormal loss also and good units transferred to process 2 also. How do you get that? Total cost minus, here nothing of scrap value. So total cost 56,000, right? Divided by 10,000 minus 200, that is 9,800. So 56,000 divided by 9,800 is the cost per unit. Multiply with 50, you get abnormal loss, I would suggest that actually first. Balancing figure, you can take it as amount transferred to process 2, that is 55,714. Not necessarily. If you multiply with 9740 also, you will get similar amount. But unfortunate thing is sometimes there may not be exact calculation because of decimals. So make sure the totals are matching. Calculate abnormal loss easily. Total cost minus scrap value of normal loss, which is 0 in this case, divided by total number of units inputted in that process minus normal loss units. So this is the formula always we use in every process, nothing new. But why we have not taken any minus here? Because there is no scrap value. If there is a scrap value, there will be minus here also. That's it. That is the process 1 to process 2. There is a transfer. Simply you have to copy that from there to here. 9750 and 55,714. After that, story starts once again. In process 2, once again there is material cost 20,000, labor cost 4,000, manufacturing overhead 10,000. So 2410. Those all will be debited to the process 2 account. Naturally, yes. 20,000, 4,000 and 10,000. But here normal loss is 488 that we already calculated. Once again, since there is no scrap value, amount column of normal loss will be 0. And abnormal gain here will be how many units? 138 units. That is abnormal gain. Gain you cannot calculate directly. You have to wait. First you have to just put the number of units here. 138. Process 3 is going to get 9,400 units from process 2. When 9750 units are inputted, 488 is normal loss, 9,400 is only going outside. Naturally 138 is abnormal gain. First you can complete the units tally and then forget about units for some time. Then find out per unit cost of, again, abnormal gain also and cost to be transferred to next process also. Nothing separate. Take this total, add all of them. What is adding all of them? 55,714 plus 20,000 plus 4,000 plus 10,000, 89,714. Minus, there is nothing. Minus because scrap value is 0. So 89,714 minus only these two. 9750 minus 488. So 89,714 divided by 9750 minus 488 means how many units? 9262. So 89,714 divided by 9262. Per unit cost will be that much. 9.6862. You have to calculate them. Multiply with abnormal gain 138 units. You get the amount. How much? 1337, let us say. Naturally, if you multiply with 9,400, ideally it should be similar, but there will be difference because of decimals, but approximately same. 91,051. So that's it. That is the end of process 2 account. Then the story is still not over. From process 2 account, the amounts will go to process 3. So from here they have come to process 3, where 9,400 will be inputted, and cost also has come from process 2 to process 3. Here, debit them, open them and debit them. Starting point. After that, copy paste once again. What are the costs given in the question? You have to just copy paste it. Process 3, what are the costs? 10,000, 1,000 and 15,000. So 10,000, 1,000 and 15,000. Add, that means debit to process 3 account as costs. So material cost 10,000, labor cost 1,000 and other manufacturing overheads 15,000. Fine. This is inputted units 9,400 which came from process 3. But here the normal loss is supposed to be 940 units because it was 10%. That already we have calculated earlier in the beginning itself. 940 units was supposed to be the normal loss. And abnormal loss also we already calculated. 460 units was supposed to be abnormal loss. So complete the unit tally first. 9,400 inputted, normal loss 940, abnormal loss 460. How many units are going out? As finished goods, only 8,000 units are going out. Unit tally once you complete, then take the costs. How to take them? Same logic. 91051 plus 10,000 in this process plus 1,000 plus 15,000. The total cost is 1,17,051. That is in the numerator. 1,17,051 minus nothing. Why? Because there is no scrap value for normal loss. Divided by number of units has to be always taken like this. Whatever is inputted minus number of units of normal loss. So 9,400 minus 940. So that is supposed to be 8460. So divided by 8460 per unit will be how much then? 13.8358 approximately. Multiply with 460 units, you will get abnormal loss of 6364. So just multiply this with 460, you get abnormal loss. That is how much? 6364. Naturally, the remaining amount should be the amount transferred to finished goods stock. There is no other process. Don't write process 4 and all. There is no other process. This is the last process. So it will be transferred to finished stock account. That is 1,10,687, because we have total to be tallied. If there is a small difference of few rupees, don't worry about it. Write the balancing figure, but make sure it is matching with a very small difference. If the difference is big, that means something is wrong. So the per unit cost of good units transferred to the next process, as well as per unit cost of the abnormal loss or gain, will be always same. That is the main point to be noted here. If that is understood, this entire normal loss, abnormal loss things are very clear and easy to be understood. That's it. What will go to finished stock? 8,000 units with a cost of 1,10,687 with an unit cost of 13.8358. That is the conclusion of process 3. Then let us look at another question which was given in examinations actually earlier. This type of questions can be very well expected. Illustration 3. RST Limited processes product Z through two distinct processes, process 1 and process 2. Okay. On completion, it is transferred to finished stock. From the following information for whatever year, prepare process 1 account, process 2 account and finished stock account also. Finished stock account also is asking. That's okay. Whatever comes from process 2, it goes to finished stock. We'll come to that. Then look at the data that is given here in process 1 and process 2. Raw materials used, first of all, inputted number of units is how many? 7,500 units. Cost per unit is 60 rupees. So naturally that will be the multiply with this 2, you will get materials cost. Transferred to the next process or finished stock. In this case, next process is 7050, whereas the normal loss is 5%. Once again, 7,500 units are inputted. 5% normal loss means ideally 7125 units are supposed to be produced, but only 7050 units are output coming out. Means what? There is an abnormal loss of 75 units. So here itself we can find out there is abnormal loss of, that is process 2. And here itself, that also we can just identify. When 7050 units are transferred to next process has normal loss of 10% on its input, on inputs. So 7050 into 10% means 705. So ideally 6345 should be produced, but 6525 are produced. More units are produced. How is it possible? It is not possible. It is only just because we expected a higher normal loss, but that did not happen. And that is what we are calling it as abnormal gain. So number of units of abnormal loss in process 1 is 75. Number of units of abnormal gain in process 2 is 180. That is clear. Direct wages is a amount which is there, copy paste amount. Direct expenses, we can just calculate 60% of direct wages, 65% of direct wages, direct calculation, simple calculation. Manufacturing overheads also 20% of direct wages, 15% of direct wages. So all these things are copy paste amounts. Then the realizable value of scrap per unit is given for each process. One is 12.5, the other one is 37.5. Of course, that will have to be identified as a normal loss credited to the each process account multiplied with this realizable value of scrap at this level. But at a final level, definitely there will be abnormal loss also, which will have to be accounted for this. We'll come to that later. But the scrap value is given in process 1 and 2 very clearly, that is 12.5 and 37.5. Then finally, how many units are sold? Sold. 6,000 units are sold. How many units are produced in process 2? 6525 units are produced. Not all units are sold. It's okay. There may be closing stock, no problem. So whatever the sold units are there, those are 6,000 units only, but these are sold at 15% on cost. And assume that there is no opening and closing stock of work in progress. Work in progress is a very important aspect in process costing. If it is not there, means almost the calculations are all much simpler. But still, this is an example of a question which is mostly focusing on the concept of abnormal loss and abnormal gain, basically, how to treat that, and finally to find out how much is going to be the profit also. It can be actually asked as prepare an income statement, though it is not asked. Only process 1, process 2 finished stock is asked. But this can be used for preparing cost sheet at the end. Instead of cost sheet, you call it income statement or profit and loss account, whatever we can call it. Let us call it profit and loss account. Also, prepare profit and loss account can be a requirement here. Since sales are given anyway, so can we find out profit or loss? Yes, definitely we can. So let us prepare that also. But before that, let us start with process 1 account. Open that. Process 1 account. Same way. Units and amount. First of all, number of units inputted is 7,500 units. Multiply with 6. So 7,500 units into 60 rupees per unit. 4,50,000 rupees is the materials cost in process 1. Okay, fine. Then labor cost is already given 135,750. Take it. That is straight away copy paste. Direct expenses he has given as 60% of direct wages. Calculate. 60% of 135,750 will be this. 20% of 135,750 will be this. So, as per the information that is given in the question, we have to find out how much is direct expenses and manufacturing overheads. Both are given as a percentage of direct wages. So that's not a big deal. Material cost is given indirectly. Wages cost is given anyway. And direct expenses and manufacturing overheads also, amounts are all given. All amounts are given. All that you need to do is just copy paste, nothing else. But main point here is normal loss. How much is going to be the normal loss here? 7,500 units are inputted. 5% means 375 units are supposed to be normal loss. So by normal loss, 375 units. But how much is the amount column? Here you cannot say 0 because there is a scrap value. Multiply with 12.5, you will get 4687.5, approximately 4688. That is by normal loss. So far it is okay. Then what you can do is first complete the units tally. How many units are transferred to next process 7050? Then automatically abnormal loss in the number of units will be arising, that is 75, which we already calculated here. That is in the process 1 we are talking. But here scrap value and all you should not take for 75. That is different. That will be dealt separately later. But abnormal loss and good units, both of them have to be transferred to respective places at the same unit cost. So process 1 account completed units or good units cost will be transferred to process 2 account. Abnormal loss will be transferred to costing profit and loss account. So they are transferred to different places, but definitely the unit cost is same. How to get that unit cost? Same way. We have the total cost 694,350 minus of. Here there is a scrap value of normal loss, that means 4688 divided by 7,500 minus 375. that comes to 7125. Denominator is always this minus this. So how much is per unit? 96.795, let us say, approximately 96.795. 96.795, if you multiply that with the 75 units, approximately you will get abnormal loss of 7259. Take the remaining as balancing figure, that is amount transferred to process 2. Why balancing figure? Is only because of fractional errors, that is because of decimals. If you take many decimals here, automatically there will not be any error, it will be exactly matching. Because we take only few decimals, first take abnormal loss and then also calculate for 7050 also. So 7050 into 96.7947, if you take, that will come to 682 402.6, but we have to take balancing figure, so 682 403, let us say. That is transferred to process 2. That is one process done. Then naturally from this process, these two amounts will go to process 2. These are all going to process 2. Process 1, from there they will come to process 2. Okay. Debited to process 2 account. So 2 process 1, same things. 7050, 682 403. Now what is the story, sir? There is no direct materials, looks like in process 2. Nothing is given here. No materials are there introduced here in process 2. Not there, not there. Don't think, how can that be? We are not the one to decide the technology. We are not the ones to decide which process we are talking, what manufacturing is happening. We don't know anything of that. So there is material cost, we'll take it. If there is no material cost, okay, leave it. But there is other processing costs like wages and direct expenses and manufacturing overheads are there. These three amounts you have to take in process 2 account. Whatever the amount is there of direct wages, that can be taken anyway, straightforward. Then as a percentage of direct wages, you can take direct expenses and manufacturing overhead. So far it is all same. Now you can first complete the normal loss also, because it is given 10% normal loss of 7050 means 705 units of normal loss will be there. Here look at the scrap value, it is not same. It is 37.5 in process 2. So 705 units into 37.5, that is 26,438 rupees is the scrap value of normal loss. Then complete the unit tally. How many units are going to next process? 6525. That is given in the question. Next process is not next process, actually these are the finished goods, because process 2 is the last one. 6525 units are going to be completed. That means there is an abnormal gain of 180 units, as we have already calculated. 180 units of abnormal gain is there. First complete unit tally. Then this will not be available already. This we have to find out. So units, once you tally, these two things we have to find out. This thing and this thing we have to find out. How to find out? Taking others. This minus the 26,438 divided by 7050 minus 705. So 6345 is the denominator. Take the numerator. 682 403 plus 129 250 plus 840 plus 19,387 minus 26,438 divided by 6345. So per unit cost will be how much here? That is coming to approximately 140.0496. Multiply it with 180. First we multiply with 180, so that you get this 25,209. Then automatically you will get a balancing figure of 913,824. Even there will be only a small difference if you multiply this 140.0496 with 6525 also. There will not be that much difference. It will be more or less the same. 140.0496, 9,13,824. Same amount is there. Like this, the process 2 account is complete. Means finished goods are done. And these finished goods will have to be transferred to finished goods account. That is also asked to be prepared. So let us take a finished goods stock account. Naturally from process 2, 6525 and 913,824. These two amounts will come to finished goods account, same like that. But in this, there is a closing stock of 525. So simply speaking, you have to split this 6525 into closing stock and cost of sales. How much is cost of sales? How much ever it is for 6,000 units, that is cost of sales. How much it is for closing stock, that is 525 units, that is value of closing stock. So we know this is the total cost of manufacturing 6525 units. All that what we are doing is, in that how much is stock and how much is cost of sales. Stock is how much? 73526. That is closing stock of finished goods, by the way. And cost of sales is 840,298. That is cost of sales. Now you can prepare a cost sheet also, or otherwise also, whatever the way it is. P&L account also you call it, income statement you call it. Let us say P&L account. So P&L account if we prepare, naturally cost of sales will be debited to that. So the cost of sales we have already 840,298 coming from the finished goods stock account. And when we say cost of sales, it is after adjustment of stocks. Again and again, stocks are not required. The goods which are sold only, the cost of them only is cost of sales. And sales are given already as 15% profit on the stock. Is that what is given? Yes. So the finished goods are sold at a profit of 15% on cost. So whatever the cost of sales are, on that 15% if you add, that you will get sales. So 840,298 plus 15%. Add that. You get sales of 966,343, let us say. These two things are okay. Now the point comes abnormal loss and abnormal gain. Abnormal loss and abnormal gain, you have to be careful here. Why? Because when we had already the abnormal loss in process 1, that was how much? Abnormal loss in process 1. Amount wise, it was 7259. The point is, will it be really 7259 or will there be any scrap value? There will be scrap value. How much was that? 12.5 rupees per unit of scrap value. So the point is, you have to reduce it from that abnormal loss what you have already calculated. So deduct, not in the account, I'm just showing it for understanding purposes. 75 into 12.5, that is 938, let us say 938. So really the abnormal loss will be how much? That has to be debited to the P&L account. If this 938 is deducted, 7259 minus this 6321, 6,321. That will be debited to the costing P&L account. This is what I was talking earlier. 6321, 6322, whatever. So that is the abnormal loss. Same way abnormal gain also. Abnormal gain here, we talked about 25,219. Will that be really that much abnormal gain? No. We have transferred, we said that this much of normal loss is there. This much normal loss will not be there. Actually, it will be lesser than that. So these two will get nullified. And abnormal gain will be really how much? So once again, deduct from this. Deduct from this how much? Scrap value 37.5. For process 2 it is not 12.5. It is 37.5. So what you have to do here? Deduct 180 into 37.5. That means 6750. 6750 has to be reduced here. That means how much is the real abnormal gain? Instead of 25209, it will be only 18,459. 18,459 abnormal gain that is created to the P&L account. So that is the point to be noted here. While crediting or debiting abnormal loss or abnormal gain, we have to adjust the scrap value of them. That is very important step. After doing this, sales we know, cost of sales we know, abnormal loss, abnormal gain we know. Naturally the profit here is 1,38,182. This is how the profit is computed in the process costing when units are introduced in one process, in this case process 1, from there was some abnormal loss. Then remaining units are transferred to process 2, where there was some abnormal gain, and the units are transferred to finished stock. Entire units are also not sold. Only some of them are sold, means 525 are still in stock, nothing problem with them. These are not scrap or anything. These are fully super goods, excellent ones, finished goods. They are in the closing stock, that's all, nothing else, no problem with them. 6,000 are sold, only 6,000 will say cost of sales we have to calculate. So sales related to 6,000 units, costs also we have to take for 6,000 units. But in this process, whatever abnormal loss and gain that we have encountered, that will be after adjusting the scrap value, then we get net profit. This is one way we can say the introduction to the process costing. Of course, as I said, the core activities that we have to do while solving the problems of process costing will be these only. There will be processes, there will be goods going from one process to another process, there will be abnormal loss, abnormal gain, or normal loss, there will be there. Calculations what we did today will have to be done. All these things are okay. But what was missing here? Missing what was is stocks, basically. Particularly the work in progress. That is where the real challenge in process costing will come. That's what we will face in the next session, and we'll see how to value work in progress and how to calculate equivalent units, because work in progress means not completed units. If they are completed, then it's okay, but they are not completed. So how to calculate equivalent units, how to value work in progress. Of course, different methods will be always there, weighted average, FIFO, LIFO, with those differences. How the process costing can be used for ascertaining the cost of each process and eventually transferring this cost from one process to another process, and so on and so forth. Finally, to arrive at the cost of the goods which are manufactured, and thereby calculating the profit. So the entire picture of how to calculate profit is what we need to get from all these internal adjustments which are supposed to be done from process to process. That is the crux of process costing, I can say, but still a very important adjustment, or very important you can say complication or challenge related to the process costing, which will be tested definitely in the exam, is the valuation of work in progress. That we'll discuss in the next session, and we'll also solve some of the questions which will involve all those good, interesting twists. Till then, take care. Bye bye. Thank you very much.